Right team, welcome back to another video from Caravan Carp. As you join me in the tackle shack today, we're doing something a little bit different. My reason for this video is, right now, the second-hand market for RT4s is really good. As the new V4 versions come out, there's a lot of really good deals to be had on the older model. So what I'd like to do in this video is, I'm going to talk to you about the things I picked when I bought it, the things I'd change, or would I go for them options when I buy a V4 eventually, because I'm aiming to upgrade this year to a V4. And I'm going to tell you the good and the bad about what I've had owning an RT4. This is purely my own honest opinion, you know, it's not biased. I've not been given anything or anything like that to do this video. It's just I paid for this with my own money. It cost me about £3.5 grand to buy the boat and all the bits and bobs that I have bought, and I'm going to talk you through what bits and bobs I've got and what I would get in the future, and do I really need them. So first and foremost, I'll talk about my boat. She's actually got a nickname. We call her Shaniqua. You'll probably seen her in a couple of my videos, my bathing video and stuff like that. And a lot of people don't like bait boats out there. They get a lot of bad press, but to be honest, I haven't got the time to spend practicing casting 120, 140 yards and things like that. Well, what this gives me is the ability to fish at that sort of range accurately and quickly. And with the use of the autopilot, because the version of the RT4 that I have has the autopilot done by CARPLOUNGE themselves in it on the tablet, and to be honest, it's absolutely brilliant. I'll be honest and tell you that I have had a few problems with my boat, and I'll go through them later on in the video. At the minute, the second-hand market for RT4s, because the V3 version, which I've got, is now the older version, and the new versions come out, the V4, you can get them for a really good price. So I thought I'd help you and talk through what options you want to look for in the boat and what you want to stay away from, really. So first and foremost, I'm going to talk about the motors. So I think in the new version, the V4, they only offer 2 options, but in the V3 version, which I had, there was 3 options at the time. So there was the standard motors, there was the low noise motors, and then there's the brushless motors. Unfortunately, when I bought my boat, we went straight into the first stage of coronavirus. I actually ordered the boat with the low noise motors, but I was kind of forced to buy the brushless motors. They phoned me up and said, look, we'll offer you these motors for, I think it was about €90 or something like that, and we can get your boat to you in X amount of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. And at the time, we really didn't know what was going on. So I did it, so I made sure I didn't lose my money, because I paid for it in full, and I was a bit worried that you don't know what was going on in the world at the time, and they might go under. But anyway, so I got the boat, and I got the boat with the brushless motors. I'll show you a video now. I'll put a clip in now of what the brushless motors sound like when you're using them. Right, so I've just stuck the boat in. I've just been wiped out by a coot. So I'm just going to use a root. I've set one up, so my left hand rod, which is there, you can see it. I'll just come up on the map there, there's like a deep spot there, so I've got a zig in there. So I'll just click start route and go. Start auto drive. That's the boat on its way out now. So zoom in there for you. You better see where the boat is and where it's going. So it's got closer now. The boat's actually started to slow down a little bit. Slowed right down. Getting over the spot now, you can tell. Yeah, now it's holding its position. Dropping the rig. And now it's on its way back to me. As quick as that. That's how easy it is to put a rig out with an RT4. It's a little bit exaggerated because I'm using it on a like a big open lake, but everybody on the forums and everything says that the brushless motors aren't that loud. Well, I don't know what brushless motors they've got, because mine sound like jet engines. To be honest, they're pretty much as loud as my jet ski. So a friend of mine, he has the low noise motors, and when we was at Baden Hall, me and him both had our boats in like pegs next to each other, and I found the low noise motors to be only slightly slower, but they were miles quieter. And I found that the boat handled a little bit better as well. So if you are going to buy yourself a new RT4 or you're looking for a second-hand one, I'd opt for one, unless you're fishing massive lake like in Europe all the time. I'd opt for the quiet motors, the low noise brushed motors. Battery packs wise, I went for, you get the standard 2 black batteries like this, and I opted to buy the bigger battery. I think this one is the 24.5 amp hour one. They also do a 30 amp hour one. If you're gonna go for a boat with autopilot, I believe the V4 system is a little bit better in regards to its battery consumption, but these black ones get hammered in no time, so I really wouldn't bother with just the black ones. You get them with a package, but you really need, if you're gonna be using autopilot and bits and bobs like that, you definitely need the 24.5 amp hour batteries. That's my own honest opinion. You can do 4 days. I've done 4 or 5 days with these, and it's pretty much dead. These ones you get a day and a half max, and that's if you're not actually using the boat that much. They also now offer a smart battery system, which you can slot the batteries into the boat, and everybody goes on saying that these batteries are a pain to charge because they have this little thing, it's a balance cable, and then they have this cable. And the charger I opted for was the deluxe charger. They do a black version of this, and I would definitely go for this over the standard charger, because with these batteries, they take a little bit more, you need to put a little bit more care into how you look after them, because you can damage them and they're expensive. I think they're about £200 a piece. But all it is, it's a matter of getting the balance cable, and it has a little black cable on it, and all you've got to do is make sure it's a little bit finicky that it's in the pin. The black wire goes to the minus on there, and that's all you've got to make sure you've got to do. And then the settings are quite easy. If any of you want me to go through the settings that I use for charging and not quite sure about it, drop me a message on Instagram and I'll whip you a little video up and show you how to do that, because it causes lots of confusion to people, and to be honest, I don't think it's such a big problem. But if I had the system that I have in the V3, would I opt for the smart battery system? No, I wouldn't, because they come in 15 amp hour and 13.5 amp hour, and they cost quite a lot of money. So the 15 amp hour one is the same price as the 24.5 amp hour battery. So for me, it costs too much, and there isn't enough capacity in them batteries, although they are easy. But I don't really personally find charging the batteries on the RT4 to be a problem. One option I also opted for were the bait spirals, and they come with these hoppers and the bait spiral itself, and it plugs into a socket on the boat. In all honesty, I do use them, but I use them because I have paid quite a bit of money for them. I think it was about 300 quid, that option for the 2 bait spirals, and you can bait spiral over a big area. So if you're pre-baiting and bits and bobs like that, you can do it. You can set up a raster on the tablet that allows it to go up and down along a route and actually bait up for you while keeping the spirals moving slowly. But to be honest, I don't think it's accurate enough as such. But that's my personal opinion, again, because I'm probably going to get some comments on it. There's a lot of people that absolutely love these boats, and I'm one of them people, but I'd rather be honest and tell you the truth. So if I was going to go for a boat again, I wouldn't be that bothered about having bait spirals. One thing I would get is the little small aerial for the front of here, because getting this under trees can be a little bit of a pain with these aerials, and they offer a little smaller version. The back one you still have to keep. Different boats have different sets of aerials depending on what options, but if you've got all the options on the V3, you'll have these 2 aerials. Now what I would like to talk about is on the new boat, I would definitely go for the new boat for this reason, is they have a new aerial system, so that means they're quite short and you don't have this back aerial, it's like a block. So that's definitely a positive if you want to be fishing underneath trees and things like that. Obviously take into account fish safety and don't be daft, but yeah, it's definitely something that I'd opt for the V4 for. Although it's a lot more expensive nowadays, that is one of the things that'd sway me towards it. Now the control box, this thing is what basically sends the signal out as such. It's sort of like a Wi-Fi box and Bluetooth. It's easy enough to set up. You've got 2 black aerials and 1 silver aerial. It's a matter of turning it on, pairing the tablet to it, and pairing the boat. To be honest, I don't find it too hard. It's pretty easy to set up, and it's the silver one in the middle and the 2 black ones either side. Now what does get on your nerves is A, it's not waterproof, and B, these big ass aerials are a pain. When you're chucking these, I fish in a brolly system, in a Tempest brolly system most of the, well, all year round in all fairness. And what I find is these aerials are a pain. You have to, well, you don't have to take them down, but you're always risking snapping them. But the new system, the V4 system, the main reason why I'd go for that over anything is this box has no aerials and it's also waterproof. So you could put it in, say, a storm pole, stick it in the ground, and you could leave it out in the wet. Not that they probably advise that, but I think that'd be fine. What I have to do with this in the rain is I put a plastic bag over the top of it, and I have the tablet separately. As long as you're close enough to the actual box, then it still works, the tablet. So one of the other things I need to talk about is the remote control, and they offer an upgrade for that. And if you've got the full system, they always recommend that you just go with a standard one. I've never had any issues with this whatsoever, to be honest. It is basically a remote control. You still need to use this. So on the tablet, you can control the boat via like a bit of a thumbstick on the screen, but it doesn't really control very well, to be honest. I found it to be pretty shite, in all honesty. So you still need the remote control. So you send the boat out with the autopilot, and then you bring it back with the autopilot, and then what you do is you just put the remote control on and drive it back to the front of your peg. You can set the autopilot to bring it right close to the front, but I like to set it just a bit off my peg so it's further enough out that it doesn't interfere with my rods. Right, on the topic of echo sounders, I went for the Dragonfly, and the Dragonfly gives you two separate screens. So it has one that's better for structures and that's one that's better for seeing fish. In all fairness, my mate that I talked about earlier, he's only got the Y fish, I think they call it, and you know what, it was actually not that bad. One thing I've found with a V3 is everyone will complain that it scrolls too slow, and that is definitely an issue. I think it might have something to do with the tablet and the autopilot or something like that, because on Stu's boat, he's just got the Y fish and his scrolls a lot better than mine does. So I don't know if that's because I've got the autopilot and bits and bob, but I found it to be better on his. Do you really need to go for the Dragonfly? I'm not sure, but is it an advantage? Yes, it's all down to your budget. So I'd always go for the Dragonfly, but I'm not that bothered either way. Everybody says, like I said, that you need to like do this little pinch thing with your fingers to pinch out the screen and extend it and things like that, and it's supposed to help, and it does help a little bit, but it doesn't solve the problem. That's probably one of my big bugbearers with this system. However, having seen the Toslin echo sounder and bits and bobs like that, the raymarine is worlds apart. This is what sets the RT4 apart from the other boats on the market, the Gowie, things like that. A friend of mine's got the Gowie, another lad who I know has got the Toslin, and the raymarine is miles better from what you can see. It's miles more refined and things like that. Don't be fooled though by the pictures that you see of the mapping and stuff like that. You have to buy another bit of software to actually do that, and that costs about $150 or something like that. So in the maps that you can do in the tablet itself, they are okay, they're not that bad. But what I've actually found is, really, when you start whacking your boat out, mapping the lake, it's very rare that you get enough water to really make use of that. So I just drive it out and find my spots as I need it. Right, talking about autopilot now. So you can get either the CARPLOUNGE's autopilot, which I have, or they offer a Toslin autopilot, which is on a lot of other bait boats, and that's like a standalone unit that sits on the front of your receiver. In all honesty, when I've been out in the past and when we're at Bade and all, I found the Toslin autopilot, even though it's a bit fiddly and a bit finicky, it was more accurate than the CARPLOUNGE's one that I was using, and we were in a peg next to each other side by side. I'm not sure really, to be honest, but it's easier having it all in one on your tablet. That's all I can say about that. But I'm a bit here nor there really with the autopilot system. It does work and it is accurate, and it's great being able to set your spots and things like that and mark them and name them and things like that. But it can be a little bit temperamental every now and again, and there's loads of things you can do. They'll say it's user error and bits and bobs like that, but there are loads of things you can do to make it better. I've honestly found that it can be temperamental at times. The boat itself can be temperamental at times. I haven't been without problem. It has been back to Germany to be fixed. So my brushless motors, which are supposed to be the better ones that last longer, blah blah blah, they went on me when I was on Cromwell Lake, blew the fuse, and I had to ride the boat in really slowly to get it back without blowing the other fuse on a backup battery. One good thing about this other boat is you have a main battery and a backup battery, and in the event that you get weeded up or at whatever happens, you blow a fuse or anything like that, to prevent any electronics getting damaged, you've got the backup system that you can switch to. Also, if your battery's gone dead, you can switch to your backup battery. An option which I would definitely go for is the camera system. It is a really, really expensive option. I think the CARPLOUNGE one is about 1,300 quid, something like that. But when you're fishing to a far margin at 130 yards like I was at Baden Hall, I borrowed a camera system. It wasn't CARPLOUNGE's own one, it was the fisheye system, and I think there's another company called Stealth, they do a system. And what I was doing, I was fishing on a really tiny tight spot, and the raymarine was not really giving me enough detail to know whether I was actually over the clear spots or not. So at Baden Hall, I used the camera to drive at a marker stick that I'd put in with an orange line on it, so I knew exactly where to drive to at night, and I was using the camera to see where I was going, and I could accurately get right to the far margin where I needed to go, because using the autopilot, it was stopping and stoofing into the bank because I was fishing that close to the far bank, so I couldn't really use the autopilot in that scenario, and I couldn't judge how close I was to the far bank because it was at such range. So the camera allowed me to see the far vegetation, and then I used the camera to drop down, and I was over my spot then, and I knew that I was fishing constantly, that I was on the right spot, I wasn't in the weed, and I also knew when I went over in the morning whether my bait had been eaten or my rig had been done, because I could lower the camera down and actually see what the spot looked like. If you can afford it, definitely get the camera system. So yeah, I have had it back, and it can be temperamental, but if I was to buy one again, would I buy one? Well, yeah. So our Luke, he's got the Wave Runner, and when we was at Baden, it was really, really weedy, and anybody with other boats were tending to get them stuck, and were having to reel them in and stuff like that with the rig still in, just reel the boat back in and drag it back. But the RT4 literally was going over the top of the thick weed. Obviously every now and again it would get slightly weeded up, but all we had to do was a quick reverse and then go forward, and boom, we were straight through the weed. And it literally was the only boat that could cope with the situation. There was a few different kinds of boat there, and every one of them struggled by the RT4, so I was really impressed with that. I am a massive fan of it, and if someone said, oh, I'll give you all your money back for it, you could have exactly what you paid for it back, would you take it and buy a different boat? I don't feel that there's anything on the market with the echo sounders that they have that can match this. If I was given the option of the version 3 or the version 4, I'd definitely buy the version 4 for the reasons that I've told you. Also, the options that I wouldn't bother with in the future would most probably be with the bait spirals. I'm not really that bothered about them. I do use them, but I use them because I paid for them more than anything. And that's about it really. So if any of you like me to do any more videos on the RT4, either drop me a message on Instagram at CaravanCarpers, or comment down below, and if you could, give this video a quick like, and if you want to see any videos going forward, if you could subscribe and hit the bell notification button, and then you'll see any new videos that come. I'm going to do a few different videos about stuff like this now. I've got the table and that set up now, so I've got a few things that I can talk about. Right, well, thanks for taking the time to watch my video. I'll see you in the next one. Caravan Carpers out.